now I'm here. I'm glad to be here, and I'll start with a little bit presenting myself. Actually, being here kind of brings memories to me because I'm an agronomist by education. I went to study agronomy because I wanted to study organic, or whatever the word was at that time, and to a large extent the word actually was biodynamic at that time. So I was involved in the biodynamic movement in the early, or let's say in the 80s, and the grand old man of biodynamics in Finland, Mikael Paks, called me in winter 86, asking me to start as an advisor for the Biodynamic Association. So I was the first biodynamic farming advisor in Finland Mikael Paks was before me, but he wasn't getting a salary, I think, so he was volunteering. So I worked in that position for 3 years, kind of in the middle of my studies. I hadn't graduated yet at that point. And then I jumped into, which is not mentioned here, I jumped into baking. So you can imagine that in the 80s, organic was really small. There was some tens of farms, and a lot of the grain was eaten as sprouted. People were buying grain and sprouting it. So that was the main consumption of organic grain. And it was growing. So suddenly there was a kind of oversupply. There wasn't enough people sprouting, so something else had to be done. And that's why I started with my, at that time, wife, a bakery in end of 88. That's why I stopped working in the association. But that was a biodynamic small bakery I was running for 5 or 6 years. And then somehow I got into more trade in the organic food business and stuff like that, and I'm partly still there. But so there is let's say, a kind of 10, 15 years of my life back then when I was quite deep in biodynamics and going to a lot of Nordic. There was Nordisk Forskning when we were studying, Bo Pettersson, and then Arthur was running that at that time. And then when I was baking, there was Nordisk Bagarring, which was a cooperation between Nordic biodynamic bakeries. So there's been a lot of Nordic meetings running to Järna quite a lot at that time, and so forth. But anyway, so then there's this period when I've been more in business, in the organic food business, and then maybe there in me woke up a craving for a more holistic way of thinking, because as you might know, I mean, organic also was quite idealistic back in the 80s, but then it's been kind of in a way diluted, and you get into discussions where you're saying that in principle organic should be this or that, and people are staring at you with empty eyes saying, what are you talking about? Organic is defined in the EU regulation, full stop. So I kind of bumped into these situations that you were not able to talk about what organic in principle should be. There are ethical principles behind organic as well, but nobody remembers that. And then I found permaculture. So that's actually where I've been more active the last 10 years, over 10 years, but I somehow mentally, I link it still to biodynamics because there is the holistic thinking in both. And I couldn't avoid putting a few slides up about what permaculture is. But anyway, so on that path, I've done the diploma in permaculture. I'm acting as a mentor for other diploma other people who are doing their diploma in the Nordic Permaculture Academy, and actually we have a Nordic Permaculture Academy gathering starting this evening in Sweden. So tomorrow morning I'm actually, it's bad to say that, but I'm flying to Copenhagen to get there. My wife is already on the way by train, boat and train, but sometimes you have to compromise. Yeah. And then from permaculture, in a way, comes sociocracy, and I will talk about that, of course. How come? Anyway, I'm a certified sociocracy facilitator and doing my trainer certificate at the moment. So just that was the short introduction of myself. And oh yeah, and I added this picture just for you to get a visual image that where did I come from 2 hours ago. This is like, well, it's 1.5-hour drive from here on the western side of Helsinki. We built a straw bale clay house 8 years ago here, and we're doing our forest garden and cultivation. You need to have a sauna, of course, when you're in Finland. And bees, ponds, all these were done as permaculture designs. But we don't have time to go more into that, but just to give you a visual image of where I'm coming from. Yeah, so what is permaculture? It's you could look at it from different angles, but I suppose fundamentally it's a design system for designing and implementing a sustainable and regenerative life on all levels, on the level of your personal life, on your family life, or your community, your region, whatever you want to do. For many people, it is a personal thing. I mean, more about your life than society, let's say. For many people, it's the way to be able to do something yourself with your hands, have this hands, heart, and head in your life instead of just being frustrated of everything that's going to hell in the world. So you want to do something, and permaculture is very much about that. I would say also that there is a certain focus to small-scale systems, which is not by definition, but it comes more from the fact that I think what we are maybe saying in the permaculture movement more than elsewhere, that we should all transform ourselves from consumers to producers as much as possible. So it's not just that there are farmers out there, or maybe I want to become a farmer. That's what I wanted to do when I was young, but I didn't have land and I couldn't afford to buy land, so I didn't become a farmer. But it's not really that it's us and farming. We are producers, or we should be producers, and we can do that at whatever scale. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. You can read, so I'm not going through. Anyway, there are. I mean, okay, I have to say this much: that of course, in the heart of permaculture are the ethical principles. So this is not something that is just there and then we forget about it. It's when we are doing permaculture design, we fall back on the ethical principles of earth care, people care, fair share. Always. We use those as lenses for looking at what we are doing. And of course, you can't you're going to make compromises. I mean, you're not going to be 100% ethical, and you could even have, for sure, situations where those ethics don't live well together. But earth care says basically that there is intrinsic value in nature. The nature is not there for us. The nature has intrinsic value. People care means, or is saying that we need to take care of ourselves, of people, but that starts from us personally. We have to take care of ourselves, our family, our community, though, and all humankind. And fair share says we have to do that fairly. And fairly means also towards future generations, towards non-human beings, and so forth. And then there's all these design principles we don't have time to go into, but it's a kind of systems thinking system. There's a learning pathway. I mentioned the diploma. So you have PDC courses, permaculture design courses, and then you can do a diploma. It's a lifestyle, obviously. It's an international movement. And it encompasses all areas of life. So it's not only about gardening or farming or stuff like that. It can be anything. And here we kind of come to the, why am I talking about this when I was supposed to talk about sociocracy? So that's the path how I came to sociocracy. That there somehow at some point is a very strong realization. Even for somebody like me who is not actually a people person, So I'm very much a solo doer and more a networker, but not like community builder. It's not what I have been in my life. But then when you start to think about all this, you realize that there's not much you can do alone. Basically, everything that has any larger meaning, you have to do together with other people. And we all know that that's not easy. Maybe it's easier to design a sustainable farm than to design a sustainable community that works well together without somebody getting hurt or whatever. So that's how we come to sociocracy through the social permaculture, which includes people and permaculture. I mean, there's other directions you could take. Cultural emergence is a key word. But what I'm talking about today is sociocracy, which of course is not a part, I mean, sociocracy is not a part of permaculture, but permaculture movements generally are using sociocracy. But I want to jump a little bit back now to tell where sociocracy comes from. And you know that there are different kinds of thoughts about how we can work with each other, how we can manage, I mean, different management systems, different governance systems, and there's a development. Maybe many of you have heard about the TEAL organization, so this comes from the French Frédéric Laloux's Reinventing Organizations, which has been translated, I presume, to all of your languages, because it's translated to Finnish, so it must be translated to a lot of other, other languages as well. And the story he is telling is basically that there's an evolution of how we are governing in society, starting from a mafia type of command system to a army or Catholic Church hierarchical conventional system, to what is here orange, target-oriented. So this would be, let's say, businesses typically using this kind of governance system where innovation, accountability are important, and meritocracy, meaning that merit is the important thing. What can you do? That's what makes you valuable. So that's the multinationals, the Wall Street, all the businesses doing this. Then you have the green governance system, more pluralistic, empowerment, values-driven stakeholder model. So that's typically used in alternative NGOs and what many of us know. Some companies are using this as well. And here maybe the idea, if in the orange the organization is a machine, in the green sphere organization is a family. But then you have the teal organization where you're going into evolutionary self-management, wholeness, having purpose. And there you have some company examples, the Dutch Buurtzorg, the healthcare company working on these principles, Patagonia working on these principles. So thinking of an organization as a living organism. But if you read this book, at least my experience was that it's very inspirational, but it doesn't really give you tools. What should you do? You go back to your organization and well, what am I going to do? It doesn't offer the tools. And there's another one with a little bit similar story, is the Theory U, which I really recommend to read this. And this guy, Otto Scharmer, I think he has some anthroposophic connections even, so maybe from that perspective, I think he was born on a biodynamic farm in Germany. And he's talking about this leading from the emerging future. So we have to imagine what the future should be like, and we are leading from there. But what this graphic is basically showing, and this is coming like a little bit closer to sociocracy, is that when we are talking to other people, to each other, often what we do is that we are not only talking, if we're reading, listening, whatever, we are looking for facts that support what we already think. And that's what he calls downloading. So we are just downloading those facts that we need to support how we are thinking. We all know that we do that because we have a set of ideas in our head and we want to find support for that. So we're always doing that. But in a conversation, it's not very fruitful if you're just listening to the other one from the point of view that what is that person saying that supports my ideas. You should figure out what are his or her ideas. So then you have the debate level, the ego system level, where the discussion is going like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I have an argument against you. I can prove that you're wrong. So you are actually listening, but only for the purpose of making an argument against you. A little bit better, you're listening actually, but maybe not quite there yet. And then you have the dialogue, so empathic, open-hearted listening. You're actually trying to understand what and why the other person is saying. What is the meaning behind? Because we all know that, I mean, we all ourselves and other people are not always experts in how to express ourselves. We might say something strange and mean something else. And then the listener's task is to try to understand, maybe ask, is this what you mean? Is that what you mean? To really understand what is the other person trying to say. So that's like empathic listening. And I think always when we're working together as people, we should try to get at least to that level. But then we have the fourth one, what's called here the generative open presence. It's similar to what Lalou called evolutionary. And here you are actually, if you're a group of people who are doing, maybe planning something together, you get to the point where it doesn't matter who said what. You are in a kind of flow of ideas and something comes out of it, and afterwards you're not able to say whose idea it was, and it doesn't matter. So then it's just a flow where you were together. So maybe something to strive for. I'm not saying that we can all always be there, but good to have it as an idea. But again, I mean, in the TRU, there's a huge amount of material, and you can jump deep into that as well. But reading the book itself is very inspirational. But again, you come out of it a little bit like, well, but what should I do? Where are the tools? I added one more. It's not yet. Okay, I'll do this one first. Sorry. One more picture for thought that has been helpful for me to kind of see what's going on in the world is this, what is called the Ganhian model of social change. Sorry, I haven't. It's in Finnish there, but so this comes from Mahatma Gandhi, but a little bit tweaked. I don't think you can find exactly this from him. But the idea here is that we have people and movements who are focusing on challenging what is wrong in the world. So that would be like Extinction Rebellion, Greenpeace, Fridays for Future, Black Lives Matter, and many others. So the focus is what's wrong, and we want to fight against that. You're challenging the society which is doing something wrong. Then on the right side you have the constructive area where, as Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world. Be that change yourself. Do that, do something to get there. And that's where I would put permaculture. Why not biodynamic? Why not organic? I mean, for me, organic certainly was that, and biodynamic back in the days. I put Sociocracy in there, transition movement, eco-village, and many other things, of course, can be there. And moving, I mean, typically the people who are challenging are maybe, not always, but I mean often younger. And then at some point you get the feeling that I need to do something. If nothing else, just for your mental health, you have to do something, not just rebel. And when that happens, there's also an inner change. So it's good to be conscious of that also, that it happens, and in a way you could actually even design it, that where do you want to go? You know, you could study biodynamics and anthroposophy and whatever. I mean, it's your choice where you want to go. The word Gandhi used here was inner purification. But I'm just using inner change to kind of put it a little bit on a mainstream understanding. But so that could be, as I said, anthroposophy, but eco-philosophies and many things can enter there. So this is where I think everybody in this room are more or less going around this, and you could actually imagine a spiral going to the center, and then you can ask, well, what is in the center? I don't know, but let's try to get there and find out. What's of course worrying in the world is that not everybody is in this spiral. I think we are, I hope so, but not everybody is in that spiral. So how to get more people in the spiral is a question. But yeah, that was just a picture. And this is the slide I made for you. Because I was trying to figure out what could be a connection to biodynamics and anthroposophy, which is in the background of biodynamics. And of course, Steiner is speaking about the philosophy of freedom. We should all be free. Our highest endeavor should be to develop free human beings. And that's all good. We all want that. But I think there's mostly a tendency to think about ourselves in that connection. But then if you think that we all have to be free, and then we have to work together, and then we know that there's all kind of power games going on, and in an organization there are hierarchical systems where somebody's freedom is bigger than somebody else's freedom. So I think just taking this bit, this freedom bit, and thinking about it broader makes you also ask the question that how do we govern the organizations where we are working? How can we achieve this in a balanced way? And then we step a little bit back in history, because now we're getting closer to sociocracy. But there's a nice thing of the history of sociocracy. I mean, you could also track it, the word, I mean, which philosophers have used the word earlier, but I like this story more, which says that the Quakers, which is originating from England in the 17th century, a religious Christian movement, they had the idea that there is that of God in every one of us. So saying that we have a connection to God, we don't need the priest. And this led to pretty strange situations in 17th century England with individual people interpreting the message they were receiving from God in ways that were difficult in the society. So civil disobedience, like refusing to take oaths, going to nude into public, refusing to take their hats off when they meet the higher ones, or going to church and stuff like that. So then this guy, George Fox, and now we're still in the 17th century, came with the idea that let's meet together, talk about these messages we are getting in an enlightened state, and collectively interpret them. What do they mean? And as it says here, as a unified body. So maybe that links back to what Scharmer said in the youth theory. So in those meetings, what they wanted to do was to capture the sense of the meeting. And this was done by consent decision-making. So that's an important element in sociocracies, is that we make decisions by consent. And while sociocracy, like we know it today, is mainly used in organizations for rational decision making, I really like this one because it's about mystical decision making. We can use these methods to find a common understanding and common grounds about irrational things. I've tested it in some occasions, and it's quite nice. Just a detail in the picture, the person who is speaking there is a woman, so that's also showing that the Quakers were quite revolutionary in the 17th century. So going forward, we have the Dutch guy Cornelius Kees Böcken, who started a sociocratic school in the early 20th century, and he had a Quaker background also. And this school actually exists, and there's other sociocratic schools in Holland, or free schools. And then came Gerard Endenburg, who had gone to this school and adapted the ideas to a business. And he started using the word sociocracy, which could be translated to partner governance. So that's the short history, but let's go forward. So here are the main elements of sociocracy. So I already mentioned decision-making by consent. I'll come back to that. And then there's an organization structure where we are linking circles. So a circle is like a working group or team of people. We have those teams which are working as autonomously as possible in the domain that has been defined for them. So there's a domain, let's say in an organization, a domain could be communication. So this team, this circle is taking care of communication, and it's been defined what the domain is, and within that domain they are independent. But then they are linked to the normally the general circle, which is above them with two people. And then this is a cybernetic system, so feedback is really a key element here, how to improve over time, which means that all decisions are made with a review period. And this is also giving you safety that, okay, I can consent to this decision because I know we will review it in half a year or 1 year or whatever we decide. We will collect the feedback and decide if there's something we need to improve or was it okay. So you're not in a situation where a decision is made for forever. I mean, decisions are never made forever, but here it's formalized that we always, when we make a decision, we also decide on the review period. And then we come back to it when that review period is over. And then you see the arrow there steering towards the aim. So this is like what Charmer said, that leading to a future. So this system works only when we have a vision, mission, aim together as an organization. We have to know what is the purpose we are working for. If we have an organization, I mean, an example could be that of an organization where this can be problematic sometimes is that you are co-housing with different people. And then you have a purpose of co-housing, but you don't necessarily have any other vision or mission together. And then when you're making decisions, there's actually nothing much you can fall back to justify the decisions because you don't have a vision together. So that's, be it an old organization or a new organization, that's what you need to talk about. What is our purpose? I mean, it could be called a statement of purpose. It can be called a vision, a mission, an aim. But you need to have that, because then when we are talking about decision making by consent, it has to be directed to that aim, the aims we have. So consent doesn't, or objecting to a decision doesn't, it's not that, or you cannot just say that I don't like it. That's not a valid argument against a proposal. It's not about liking something. It's about saying that, yes, but we have these aims, and because of this and this proposal is not working efficiently towards our aims, or in this respect, it's working against our aims. So this is the argument you can make, and then we have to fix it together. We have to integrate that objection into a new proposal. So it's never voted down. If there's an objection, we integrate it in the new decision, in the new proposal. Okay, but so decisions, who is making decisions, how are we doing, that's the key, and you could even ask who decides if you are in a situation where you are starting a new organization, a kind of startup situation. It doesn't need to be a business, but where you're starting up something together with other people, you need to ask who decides. If you don't know that, you might end up in trouble down the road. And that could be, I mean, let's say you are doing starting a community-based farm, a biodynamic farm with several people. Who decides? Maybe there's one person who owns the farm. I mean, you have to go into these difficult questions immediately, otherwise you will be in trouble later. Okay, this one I already told you basically. But just showing. I mean, we also have the word consensus, and some of you are from Sweden. You know that there's a lot of consensus decision making going on. I mean, we have that in Finland as well. And basically, consensus means that you're discussing something until you agree. But in consent decision making, that's not our aim to agree on everything. Our aim is to make a decision which is in the range of tolerance, so to say, that we can accept it. I'm not objecting. It's not exactly what I want, but I'm not objecting. I'm okay with trying it. It's safe enough to try. Let's go and see how it works. So that's the difference between consent and consensus. Consensus is kind of hopeless because, I mean, in the end of the day, you don't totally agree probably anyway, but at some point you get so tired that you say that, okay, I agree, but so because the consent decision process is actually quite important to understand, so I'm going a little bit in detail here. So how it might work if you have a meeting, for example, of a number of people. So what we do in a meeting is that we talk in rounds. So that's one important element in the how we are running meetings. Go in turns, in rounds, and this is very important for keeping the tension low, because immediately when in a meeting situation you go into a debate, I'm saying something and you have something you want to, like that, answer immediately, then it becomes a debate immediately, and it can grow into a conflict in the worst case. But if we have this circle talking in rounds system, so then it's Sakaria's turn, not your turn. So Sakarias will say something about what he thinks about it. Pentti will say something, and somebody else, and then it's your turn. And then in the meantime, you have already, relaxed. Maybe Sakarias already solved the problem for you. He said something that clarified it for you, and the whole situation is much more relaxed. So that's really, I recommend that method. But when we are deciding something, so somebody needs to come up with a proposal. That's often the facilitator of the meeting, but it could be somebody else. So there is a proposal, and then there is clarifying questions. And this is also important because what it's saying is that you need to understand what the decision proposal is about. And I'm sure you have all sat in meetings where somebody is proposing something and you don't really understand what's going on. And then you're just, okay, we don't have time, or I'm too shy to say that I actually don't have any clue what we're talking about, so let's decide. So here is your responsibility to understand and ask those stupid questions first. So we have a round for clarifying questions. So that's not the time for you to object because maybe you don't actually know what the proposal is about. We have to clarify, make sure that everybody understands. Then when that's done, we can react to it, saying that for this and that reason, I think it's problematic, or I really like it, or whatever your reaction is. And then we can do a consent round. And if then somebody, usually the questions, the questions have been answered, but if somebody still objects to the proposal, then we have to kind of start again. We have to integrate that objection. We have to take it into account, find a way to solve it for that person. It could be as simple as, well, could we try this and review it in 1 month? And then the person says, oh, okay, well, that's safe, we can try it. So, or it's something else, but we have to always integrate and listen to all the voices. Yeah. Okay, I seem to be telling you things that I have slides about later, but yeah. So this is how we go around the rounds. So as a rule, clarifying questions you need to understand, the reaction round, and then the consent round. And then we have the circle structure in the organization. So this kind of depends what is the starting point for implementing sociocracy. Is it an existing organization or is it a newborn organization? If it's an existing organization, there is probably departments and working groups and stuff like that that can be kind of fitted in this circle structure. But the idea is that we have in the middle what we call normally a general circle, and in that general circle, the daughter circles are represented by 2 people. And those 2 people are the leader of that daughter circle. So the leader means a person who is carrying the vision, mission, aim of that circle. So it's a kind of top-down position, not in the sense that he would have power over the others, but he's conscious. It's his task to be conscious about what's the purpose here. And then we have the delegate who is representing the circle into the upper circle. So we have a kind of top-down and a bottom-up, and we have 2 links, 2 people representing the daughter circle in the general circle. So there is representation also there, but 2 people, so that we are sure that all the ideas get through both ways. So as I said, in a simple situation, like let's say in the Permaculture Association in Finland, we have a communication circle, we have a membership circle, we have an education circle. So it could be that type of thing, but it depends what you're doing, of course. Then the smaller circle on top, that's called the mission circle. So that could be like a board of an association so those are the people who are actually holding, again, the vision and the mission and the aims of the whole organization. So the general circle is more operational. It's for coordinating everything that's going on. That's why everybody from the different circles come together. But the mission circle has the vision and mission in mind. What is the direction we should be going into as an organization? So in this structure, at least theoretically, everybody has a voice, because even if you are a circle member down here, you need to consent. Of course, in practice, the general circle could be talking about stuff that you don't know about, but still, it doesn't really matter where you are. Your voice is always heard. and we have different feedback loops built in and so forth. Yeah, but I mean, of course, if you build this circle structure at many levels, so of course there is not all the information will go through in practice, but but there's always those two people who are connecting. So basically we are not saying that there's no hierarchy in sociocracy. There is a hierarchy in this circle system, but it's a equitable hierarchy. So it's a functional hierarchy. There's a reason for it, but it's not because there are people on top commanding the people down there. So what this needs on a people level to work, and which is a learning process for people who are involved, is that we need everybody to have what's called power within. Because it can also happen that you are in this system we are sharing responsibility, but it could happen that somebody doesn't want it. I mean, that's quite common in our organization, and that probably is because they have not. I mean, they have lived in this culture of hierarchies for all. I mean, we all have. So they have not developed a power within, and we have to help people do that. So it's a learning process on many levels to get this functioning. But when not everybody needs to know the theory of sociocracy, but let's say at least a couple of people in the organization know the theory, how should this work, and are able to educate others, it will start flowing and people will start liking it, I would say. Yeah, how about the time, Zacharias?
Plenty of time.
Yeah, because I'm actually... Plenty of time. Okay, I'm going too fast in that case, but we have more time for discussion then. Yeah. So here I'm just putting together what I already said. So there is the sorry, it's in Finnish again. But anyway, so we have the discussions in rounds here, and saying that the circle has power in its domain. We have the circle structure over there. Here we are saying that we wait for our turn. Consent could be, oh, it's great, or yeah, well, it's okay, I can accept it, or objection, we need to improve. Understanding and integrating. Then we have this feedback loop of doing, reviewing, designing, doing, reviewing, designing. So that's going around all the time. There's something I didn't show, but we have a let's say a template on how to manage this on a document. So there's templates on how to work that out. Yeah. So those are the main ideas. I think there's, yeah, okay. So if you're from Finland, there is a page in website in Finnish. I have actually made this myself, saying Sociocracy for all. So that's the international organization. And if you're from other Scandinavian countries, there is Sociocracy Nu, as an organization where you can, and there is in Sweden, there's Holma Folkhögskola, which is arranging sociocracy courses on practitioner level and facilitator level, and even higher levels nowadays. It's in Swedish, but I mean, there's students there from all Nordic countries, and it's free. And that's the nice thing about Swedish Folkhögskola, that the courses are free. So even for somebody, I mean, I've done this course a couple of years ago, so even for me from Finland, it's free. So in my understanding, if you come from any Nordic country, at least, it's going to be free for you. And then there's the international organization, Sociocracy for All, where you can find a lot of material, free material, but of course you can also enter their online courses. So that's where I have done the facilitator certificate myself. some books. I would start with the Many Voices, One Song. Maybe the first book to read. Yeah, so that's Permaculture, Principles and Tools for Sustainability and Regeneration, Sociocracy, a Governance System for Getting There Together. Thank you for listening. And now we have time for questions.